Hey traders, Ben Watson here with you. Let's take a look at correlation and comparison studies today on the thinkorswim platform. Before we do that though, a couple of quick reminders. Everything we talk about simply for illustrative and educational purposes only. Any individual symbols that we use or tools that we use here on the thinkorswim desktop software platform, specifically the paperMoney version, simply for illustrative and educational purposes only. Let's jump out to the desktop and take a look at the chart here of an S&P 500 over the course of the last year. And we can see that that trend has been rallying up and it's been pulling back down a little bit. And in and of itself, that tells us something. We can do some technical analysis here. But what could potentially be helpful is comparing what's going on with the S&P 500 to something else. So one of the big news events and news items recently has been the move in oil. So let's take a look at comparing the S&P 500 to the crude oil contract. We're using that not as a trading instrument, but simply as a measure of what's going on in the market. Let's see how those two are related, and then we'll put another study on there that will help us to see the exact relationship between those two comparisons. So I'm going to go up to the little flask icon at the top of the page, and over on the left-hand side, I'm going to start typing in the word comp, C-O-M-P, comparison is what I'm getting to. So I want to add the comparison study, and I've already added it to this list over on the right-hand side. I can double-click, or I can click on Add Selected. Now, whenever we see the gear icon over here on this, on the thinkorswim platform, that gives us the opportunity to change or edit something. So I'm going to click on the gear icon over here, and we're going to change our comparison from what it was, in this case heating oil, to /CL, which is the crude oil futures contract. And we're going to click on OK and apply. And before we do that, we're going to turn on that eyeball so that we can see that comparison. Apply and OK. And now we can see that comparison tool. And so what we see at the moment is that about the same time that crude oil really started to break out of the range that it had been in was about the same time that the S&P 500 started to move in a downward direction. Now we have the S&P 500 moving up at the same time that crude oil is moving up as well. So just looking at this comparison, we might struggle, the trader might struggle to see the relationship between these two instruments. Now, there are a number of different instruments we could use. We could use any other individual stock or futures contract or index to compare the S&P 500 to. But since this is what's in the news at the moment, what's going on with the market versus what's going on with energy prices and oil, let's see if we can come up with an understanding of the correlation between these two instruments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to that flask icon, and I'm going to come back over to the left-hand side again. I'm going to type in CORR, correlation, and I'm going to add the correlation study. Now, I've already added the correlation study over here. We're going to do it the same way, either double-clicking or adding selected. I'm going to come over to the gear icon once again, and I'm going to now put that /CL crude oil contract in my comparison. And we're going to use that comparison. So the look back period that this is going to take into account, that smoothing period, if you will, is 10 bar periods or 10 days, since this is a daily chart. We're going to click on OK. We're going to turn on that eyeball so that we can see it. Click on Apply and OK. So you can see this correlation study down in the lower part of the panel moves from -1, which is a completely inverse correlation, to a +1, which is a completely positive correlation. So if this index, if these two are moving exactly the same direction as each other at the same time, we're going to see a +1 correlation. If the index, in this case, and crude oil are moving exactly opposite to one another, we're going to see a -1 correlation. So if we were to put a line right at that 0 level, we can kind of see where that 0 mark is, kind of that 0 correlation where there is no correlation, positive or negative. And from that, we can see that currently Crude oil and the SPX are in a slightly negative correlation to one another, but more often than not, crude oil and the SPX behave similarly to one another. They have a positive correlation. So if we were to perhaps change our root symbol to NDX, the NASDAQ, we might see a different correlation. If we were to change that to the RUT, the Russell 2000, then we're seeing even a different correlation there as well. And if we were to change that symbol to /CL, just so that you can kind of see the relationship here, those have a positive one-to-one correlation because they are the same thing. So that's how we can use the correlation and the comparison studies together with one another so that we can assess how one instrument is moving relative to another instrument. It's a useful tool, quick and easy to put on the thinkorswim platform. Thanks for joining us.